Demon Pig's body is shaking with fear, and he questions Elizabeth and Lin Ping about their reasons for supporting the church orphans. He's perplexed by a sudden sense of nervousness when facing them. Lin Ping, realizing negotiations might not work, proposes a deal to Demon Pig. He suggests paying for protection, asking how much money Demon Pig wants. Demon Pig, eager for an opportunity, nervously quotes 10 gold coins for 2 months. Elizabeth, also hearing their conversation from the sidelines, laughs and says, "A mere 10 gold coins," making a big fuss. Utterly foolish. Lin Ping gets really surprised. He comes close to Elizabeth and asks, "By the way, Elizabeth, you must have a lot of gold coins, right?" Elizabeth gets really happy after Lin Ping praises him. He says that he has so many treasures that he can't count them all. After hearing this, Lin Ping gets really surprised. He asks Elizabeth, "How about lending me some? I'll sell the vegetables from my home and pay you back later." However, Elizabeth is not happy with Lin Ping's idea. He doesn't want to sell his precious vegetables for just mere 10 gold coins. He says Lin Ping is an idiot, asking to use his food to exchange for those useless things. That won't do. Besides, he didn't bring any gold coins when he came to find Lin Ping. After hiring Lin Ping, he hits his head on the ground, getting really surprised. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. Demon Pig calls his men and asks Lin Ping and Elizabeth if they're going to pay the money or not. Lin Ping is really nervous. He scratches his head with his hand and says he doesn't have any gold coins. He asks if he can use the local products in his bag to make up for it. Demon Pig gets really angry. He says to Lin Ping and Elizabeth that if they are playing with him, he won't listen to their nonsense anymore. He orders his men to kill Lin Ping and capture Elizabeth. Suddenly, a pouch filled with gold coins comes out of nowhere and hits Demon Pig in the face. Demon Pig is really angry. He asks who threw this bag on his face and threatens to kill them. However, he notices something shiny in the pouch. After closely looking at the pouch, he sees it's filled with gold coins and gets really surprised. Then we see a man. His half body is human and the other half is a horse. He asks Demon Pig to stop harassing his friend and leave as soon as he gets the money. His name is Hawthorne Thrice. After seeing him, Demon Pig says it turns out he's from the Sword Saint Guild, Thunder Seabuckthorn. After realizing that he is a really powerful and famous adventurer, Demon Pig says he will give him some face. After getting the money, Demon Pig says to his men, "Let's go." But before he goes, he gives a warning to the little girl that he won't be this lucky next month. After Demon Pig leaves, Lin Ping helps the little girl. The little girl thanks Lin Ping for helping her in this situation when no one else wanted to. Lin Ping is really happy. After seeing that she is okay, Lin Ping also thanks the adventurer for helping them and offers some fruits. If he doesn't mind, please accept it. With a humble smile, Thunder says to Lin Ping, "You don't need to worry, it's a trivial matter." He turns to Elizabeth and says, "If you're willing, I'd like you to partner with me on something. It's just my opinion, but I think this guy doesn't have any good thoughts about Elizabeth." Anyway, let's continue our story. The little girl adjusts his glasses and asks, "What do you mean, partner? What can we help you with?" He says with a suspicious smile, "Let's go somewhere else to talk. If this works out, I think it can also solve our financial problems." Elizabeth folds his hands and says that he is not interested, asking Lin Ping to go. Lin Ping begs Elizabeth not to leave, emphasizing that he just helped them out. "Let's at least see what they have to say, okay?" Little girl younger siblings asks him, "Sister Annie, are you going out?" They are worried about their sister because if she gets in trouble again because of them. Little girl Annie assures them that they don't have to worry. He will be safe. He asks them to go back to the church first. He'll be back soon. When they are about to enter the pub, Horseman asks them, "Once you enter the tavern, stay close to him. You don't know what will happen." When they enter the pub, everyone stares at Elizabeth and Lin Ping. One of the men asks Elizabeth, "Hey, babe, the men around you look like trash. Want to come over here instead?" Lin Ping and little girl know that if they do this, Elizabeth will kill everyone here. After hearing this, Elizabeth's eyes are glowing red. He is really angry and releases his killing intent, asking that man to say that again. After seeing Elizabeth's killing intent, the man who commented on Elizabeth gets really scared. Their whole bodies are shaking with fear. Elizabeth turns his head to Lin Ping and says that it's all his fault for insisting on coming to this lousy place and wasting his time. Elizabeth is really angry at Lin Ping. Lin Ping is nervous and says to Elizabeth that they're already here, so why don't they go in? Horseman asks them to go this way, please, into this private room, and there won't be any outsiders to bother them. Horseman opens the door and says that they are back. Then we see a bunch of cute girls surrounding the Horseman. They say, "Master, you're finally back. We were so worried about you. We wanted to go out and look for you. Please take us with you next time." Horseman turns his head to Lin Ping and says that he forgot to mention he has a few wives here too. After seeing this, Lin Ping gets really surprised. He doesn't have any words to say. He asks him, "You have 4 wives. I knew from the start this man was suspicious. He has 4 wives, and here I am, single. Anyway, let's continue our story." Horseman starts pouring tea for everyone and says, "Let me introduce them to you. First of all, this one next to him is Gasha. Her profession is a shield warrior. Then there's the assassin Lolo, and there's Glee, a mage. And lastly, there's Jelia, she's an amazing elven archer." After seeing someone from the elf race, he says he met a girl with elf bloodline a while ago. Elizabeth asks Horseman to stop with the small talk. It's a waste of time. They need to leave. One of the girls says to Horseman about Elizabeth, "What's the deal with this woman? Her attitude is really annoying." Elizabeth is really angry. He says this is how this queen is. Do they have any opinions? The cat girl says it's really funny. She even calls herself a queen. She asks her master if this woman's brain is okay. The elf girl looks at Elizabeth and says that, after looking at the shape of her ears, she's probably a lowly half-breed with a bit of elven blood. What's she doing in front of me? After hearing this, Elizabeth gets really angry. He says to the elf girl, if he insists on bringing destruction upon herself, then don't blame this queen. If he gets killed. After hearing this, Lin Ping knows that if he doesn't claim Elizabeth, there will be a disaster. Lin Ping gets the pudding from his bag and gives it to Elizabeth. When Elizabeth shows the pudding in Lin Ping's hands, his anger is gone, and he gets really happy. After seeing Elizabeth's happy face, Lin Ping feels relieved and says, luckily, he was prepared. After Elizabeth gets claimed, Lin Ping starts his conversation with the horseman. He says, actually, they come from a very distant and nameless tribe to travel here. Elizabeth is the princess of that tribe, and I am her servant, Le Ping. After hearing Lin Ping's words, the cat girl says, no wonder her behavior and manners are so strange. She is a tribal princess who has never seen the world. Another girl also comments, his name is Elizabeth, right? He's from that uncivilized tribe that worships the demon queen in the demon realm. Huh. That's why his behavior is rude and he is uncivilized. Lin Ping puts his finger on his lips and asks for silence, mentioning that they will hear them. He also explains that it's Elizabeth's first time out, and she's still adapting to the cultural differences. Lin Ping thinks this explanation should make sense, hoping they won't ask any more questions about Elizabeth. The horseman claims everyone and asks them to get back to business. He expresses his desire to invite Elizabeth and Lin Ping to join his team in exploring a dungeon for treasure. However, the horseman is uncertain about the terrifying demonic power emanating from Elizabeth earlier, wondering if she might be from the demon race. Lin Ping then asks the horseman about the treasure dungeon, seeking a more detailed explanation. He also turns to the little girl Annie, asking if she knows what a treasure dungeon is. Annie answers Lin Ping's question and explains that treasure dungeons are said to be magical spaces set up by ancient powerful beings to hide valuable things. These dungeons are usually well hidden and very dangerous places. After hearing Annie's explanation, Lin Ping gets an idea of what the treasure dungeons look like. The horseman mentions that he also spent a lot of effort to get news of this treasure dungeon. However, the condition to open the barrier is that the number of people has to reach 8. If there aren't enough people, they can't enter the dungeon. Le Ping says that's why he is looking for us to make up the numbers. Little girl Annie starts counting to see how many people they are. After she finishes, she starts crying because she is the 8th member of this party. She asks the horseman with a crying face if she cannot go with them. Le Ping is really confused. After seeing Annie, he asks her what's wrong. Treasure dungeons seem to be precious, shouldn't he be happy to go? Elizabeth doesn't pay any attention to them. He is eating his pudding without any worry. Little girl Annie turns her head to Le Ping's side and says, Brother Le Ping, you don't know. Treasure dungeons are usually very difficult, and he is just a mere 4-star magician. If he goes, he will probably die. People don't know how the power level works in the demon world. Let me explain this for you. There are 10 types of magic power level references: magician, mage, grand mage, demon spirit, great demon spirit, demon sect, demon sovereign, demon king, demon god. Magic power level can be used as one of the reference standards for strength. Le Ping scratches his head and tells Annie that he doesn't know much about magic levels in this world. The horseman reassures Le Ping, saying he just needs to help him meet the number of people condition. The battle inside will be left to them. The treasure he'll get in the end will not be less than theirs, estimating at least a few tens of thousands of gold coins. One of the horsemen's wives mentions that their master single-handedly repelled several dark apostles who wanted to take Jelia a few days ago, demonstrating his strength. Little girl Annie gets really happy hearing this, realizing they can get tens of thousands of gold coins from the dungeon. With that amount of money, they can solve the church's financial problems without any issues. Leping asks Elizabeth to help them make up the numbers to solve their financial problems. Elizabeth, while eating his pudding, doesn't pay attention to Leping's words and says, "Fine, I don't have any problem. Please don't bother the queen from enjoying the delicious pudding." After convincing them, the horseman asks one of his wives to get the crystal ball. She takes the crystal ball from his bag and places it on the table. Leping is really surprised after seeing this crystal ball, not knowing its purpose. The horseman explains that he will show Leping how to use it. Placing his hand on the crystal ball, a bright light comes out, and he says it's Glee's magic measurements crystal ball. Putting his hand on it will measure his magic level. He takes his hand off the crystal ball, and his magic level shows on the crystal ball, registering at 8,769. After seeing this, Leping and little girl Annie are surprised. Leping asks if this is Glee's magic measurements crystal ball, and they just need to put their hand on it to measure their magic level. It turns out to be a crystal ball that visualizes magic levels into numbers, and 8,769 should be at the demon spirit level. The horseman also reveals that his magic level is at 4-star demon spirit, and his wives are all 4 or 5-star grand mages. Since they are going to team up, they should know each other well and cooperate better. After hearing the horseman's words, little girl Annie places her hand on the crystal ball, and it shows Annie's magic level, which is 300. One of the horseman's wives remarks that Annie had more than this value when she first changed her job. Annie is really disappointed, hearing cruel words from the horseman's wife, and starts crying. She apologizes to the horseman's wife, saying that her magic level just won't go up, she's just an average girl. On the other hand, Leping gets really excited after seeing the magic crystal demo. He says, "Let me try it too," knowing that he hasn't learned magic in these years, but as the legendary hero, his potential shouldn't be low either. With full excitement, Leping places his hand on the magic crystal. However, there is no immediate reaction from the crystal ball. Suddenly, a number shows on the crystal ball, indicating that Leping's magic level is 0. After seeing that, the horseman gets really confused. He doesn't know what happened. He has never seen something like that before. He says that even a pure martial arts user wouldn't have a magic level of 0. Leping places his hand on his forehead and explains that someone like him, who has been farming all his life, wouldn't have magic. He sits down on his chair and whispers that he's doomed to have no magic in this life because he never learned more about magic and swordsmanship. He has just been doing farming work all the time. The cat girl is really disappointed after seeing Leping's magic level. She asks him what he can do, stating that he seems to be of no help at all, just a dead weight to the team. After hearing these harsh words, Leping responds that he is good at something, farming. He mentions that he recently harvested some fruit they can try. The horsemen's wives express their disappointment, making fun of Leping. One of the girls comments that he's a typical bumpkin from a remote area, and suggests keeping the fruit for themselves. They don't think they need him. The cat girl wonders if Leping is really just an ordinary servant because he doesn't look like one. The horseman calms everyone down and asks Elizabeth, "Princess Elizabeth, you should also try it. Everyone wants to know what your magic level is." However, Elizabeth doesn't listen to the horseman's words. Leping convinces Elizabeth to cooperate with them. Upon hearing this, Elizabeth gets annoyed and says they want the queen to accompany them to play with these ignorant mortals. He places his hand on the crystal ball, and suddenly, a bright light comes out of the crystal ball, becoming so intense that no one can see what's happening. Everyone closes their eyes due to the intense light. Leping is really scared. He thought if Elizabeth's identity as the Demon Queen is exposed, it will definitely cause a great uproar. He asked Elizabeth to control his magic level so they will not reveal Elizabeth's true identity. Elizabeth replies that he knows what he's doing. He will not reveal his true power. Elizabeth thought it's rare to come out, so he'll play with Leping. He controls his power, and everyone is really surprised at what's happening. After some time, the crystal ball starts showing Elizabeth's magic level. His level is 8,768. After seeing this, little girl Annie says to everyone that big sis Elizabeth's level is just like Horse Brothers. It's a demon spirit level of strength. After seeing Elizabeth's magic level, the horsemen's wives are really surprised. They don't understand how this pumpkin girl's level is similar to their brothers. One of the girls says, "No way, is this woman also a 4-star demon spirit?" Leping is relieved after seeing that Elizabeth has control over his magic power level. On the other hand, the horseman says that Elizabeth is truly amazing, worthy of being the princess of the kingdom. With her joining, their chances of getting the treasure will greatly increase. Little girl Annie asks the horsemen how they can go to that treasure dungeon. Leping also thinks that this is his second time going out, and he encountered such a good thing. He can learn from them. The horseman asks one of his wives to tell them how they will go to the treasure dungeon. His wife says okay and retrieves a scroll from his bag. He throws the scroll in the air, and it starts glowing. This is a teleportation scroll. With this, they can teleport directly to the treasure dungeon. After using the teleportation scroll, they teleport into the dungeon. After seeing this, Leping is really surprised. He says that he is dizzy from the teleportation. Little girl Annie gets scared after seeing an unknown aura from the dungeon. But Elizabeth does not give a care about the dungeon. He's already faced more dangerous things than this dungeon. The horseman claims everyone and asks them, "Let's not delay, let's go into the treasure dungeon." After seeing this, Elizabeth says that he doesn't want to go and asks Leping, "Let's go home." Upon hearing these words from Elizabeth, the horseman and his wives are really surprised. One of the girls says to Elizabeth, "What is he playing at? He came here and changed his mind at the last minute. Is he messing with us?" Another two also say, "Does he know how many crystals and magic power it takes to make that teleportation scroll? If he doesn't go in, don't think about leaving here either." After hearing this, Elizabeth gets angry and asks them if they have the power, why don't they try to stop him? "Wanna try?" Leping comes forward and says to everyone, "Don't be impulsive, listen to him for a moment. He has an idea." In the next moment, he starts begging Elizabeth, saying that since he came here, just take him to see it. In another instance, a little girl, Annie, asks Elizabeth, did he notice? Inside the cave, there is a magic power that is very similar to him. After hearing Annie's words, Leping thought, a magic power that is very similar to Elizabeth's. What does she mean? He doesn't get what Annie is actually saying. The horseman comes forward, pushes Leping, and asks Elizabeth that he has to trust him. No matter what danger he encounters inside, he will protect him. "Please go in with me, Princess Elizabeth. I hear some cringe-worthy words. I know this man is not good from the start. Please send me some holy water in the comments so I can recover. Let's go back to our story." Elizabeth doesn't care about him. He asks Leping to follow him, mentioning that he'll play with him since he rarely comes out. Leping starts following Elizabeth without saying a word. After seeing this, the horseman grits his teeth in frustration. They start entering the dungeon one by one. Annie is really surprised after entering the dungeon for the first time. Once inside, Leping notices the dungeon barrier closing and asks if they can't go back the way they came. Elizabeth explains that in this special magic space, it's impossible to leave by transfer magic unless they are stronger than the person who set up the barrier. Unless they find the target location and meet the requirements of the barrier setter, none of them can leave. After some time, they reach the main entrance of the dungeon. One of the girls says that as long as they have the master horseman with them, they will definitely get that thing. Another girl whispers, questioning what they will do if they know about that thing. Annie overhears their conversation and asks Sister Jellia what they mean by that thing. Elf girl Jellia ignores Annie's question and mentions that it's gold coins and treasure. She reassures Annie that they won't be left out. On the other hand, Leping asks about the forks in front of them and wonders where they should go. With Elizabeth backing them up, Leping thinks it's no problem. The adventure officially begins. The cat girl asks the horseman which way they should go and if they need to split up. The horseman says they don't have to split up for the time being and asks one of the girls to use that move. The pink-haired girl agrees and uses her magic wand to find the right route to the treasure. She tells Elizabeth that she'll find the shortest route to the treasure in no time. Elizabeth smiles and remarks that she is just ignorant and doesn't know how big the world is. After some time, the pink-haired girl shows that there are many treasure boxes, but she also reveals that there are monsters in this dungeon, and all the monsters are at the boss level. After finding that much, her mana drains out, and she can't explore more. After some time, the horseman asks the pink-haired girl about the situation in the maze and if she explored it till the end. The pink-haired girl replies that this maze seems to have no end. She has extended her magic to the limit and has not found any trace of the edge. After hearing this, another two girls are really surprised. They say, "No way, Glee's magic extension concentrated distance is 3 kilometers long." They suggest using his spirit divination, but it has an accuracy rate of only 34%. However, they're not 100% sure. The cat girl suggests splitting up and acting in groups, with the ability to use the clone technique for support. Leping turns his head to Elizabeth and asks, "Elizabeth, do you actually know how to go, right?" Elizabeth smiles and says, "Of course, this maze is just an illusion. These ignorant youngsters will never get out if they want to explore the end." Then Leping asks why he doesn't lend a hand. They can also repay them a favor as soon as possible. Elizabeth nods his head and says no. He tells Ping that he has changed his mind now. He just wants to watch them perish with him. After some time, we see many tunnels, and one of them is the right tunnel. If they find the right direction, they can reach the treasure without any problems. Little girl Annie suggests that by going through the third cave, they should be able to reach the destination. After hearing Annie's words, Ping gets really excited and asks how she knew that. Little girl Annie says that she's just guessing. She doesn't know the correct tunnel. She also mentions that a special magic is coming from that direction. The pink-haired girl says to Annie that she's speaking nonsense and questions why she didn't feel the magic she mentioned. She insults her and says a mere 4-star maid should not make random comments here. After hearing the cold words from the pink-haired girl, Annie gets scared and asks for forgiveness. The pink-haired girl says that they haven't explored the bottom, and according to known exploration, the last passage has the least monsters. Master, they should go this way. After hearing the pink-haired girl's words, the horseman asks the cat girl what he thinks. He says that he still thinks it's better to act in small teams so they can explore faster. Another girl says that she thinks it's better to listen to Glee, the pink-haired girl. Even if they go wrong in the end, they can just go back together. It's the safest. The pink-haired girl asks the horseman to trust her. She will scout them safely to the treasure. The horseman thought about it and said they'd act together in the last cave. After hearing the horseman's words, Annie shouted loudly, saying they could go anywhere else but not the last cave. He started casting his puppet magic and summoned a cute little rabbit doll. He asked his rabbit doll to go to the last tunnel, and in the next moment, a huge monster came out from the tunnel and ate the rabbit doll, leaving only its head. After witnessing this horrible scene, Ping's whole body was shaking with fear. He asked everyone, "What is that thing?" Elizabeth replied, "That is a parasitic beast, usually found in the bodies of huge monsters." The cat girl asked the pink-haired girl if the explored area was the corpse in its stomach. After that, the pink-haired girl was really angry at Annie because he exposed him. After some time, Elizabeth said to let them struggle here by themselves and asked Ping to go. Ping scratched his head and asked Elizabeth if it would be best if he could lead the way. They don't know what danger is waiting for them, and Elizabeth and Ping started heading to the tunnel. Little girl Annie asked them if that direction is right and asked them to wait for him. In the next moment, the cat girl asked his master, the horseman, if he should use a clone to follow them and collect information. The horseman said to the cat girl that they don't need to. He thought that Elizabeth, having seen the horror of the mimic worm, wouldn't be able to make such a calm choice without confidence. It seems that Elizabeth's background is not so simple. The horseman told his wives that they would go and follow them for the time being, and they started following Elizabeth. On the other side, deep in the dungeon, we saw a huge glowing monster eye.